Hey guys, welcome back, Attack. I'm Skylant, and today we're doing a first impression on Sphere 3. Now, Sphere 3 is going to be a PvP-oriented, well, okay, I can't say that, but to me, the big draw is PvP, and you can choose to do a PvP server, and whenever you go on the store page on Steam, it highly focuses on PvP, so I'm assuming that's the real focus of the game, but there is a PvE server, which has a flagging system for PvP, and I'm assuming they still have the sieges, and they still have some, like, arena PvP in the game as well. But if you go to the PvP server, which is what I'm thinking is the real focus of the game, then yeah, you might have some cool features there, but actually getting to those features, and maybe even those features period, might not really be that great, might not be that fun, because the game is just so incredibly dated and old and boring. But because it does focus on PvP and sieging, I'm going to directly compare this game to Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 2 is the free-to-play game, in my personal opinion. It's a great free-to-play MMO, but not only that, it is the PvP MMO. Like, buy-to-play, AAA, subscription, whatever, what have you. World of Warcraft and Guild Wars 2 are like the esports MMO, okay? So, Sphere 3 is trying to sell itself on that premise of PvP. So let me directly compare it to the big boys. Why not? It's trying to. Free to play, it doesn't mean that you can make a shit game anymore, which, spoiler alert, this first impression, I don't think Sphere 3 is worth anybody's time at all. I don't think so. Anyway, so Sphere 3, I didn't get to do any of the PvP, you know, let me just do a disclaimer. I did not actually get to level up and play any of that. This isn't like a full review, okay? But I am going to compare the base user experience. I'm going to talk about the graphics, the engine. You know, I'm going to give you my first impressions on this game, and since I've done so many of these, you guys just need to trust my experience whenever I'm making these assumptions. However, they are assumptions. If you do play Sphere 3 and you are hardcore about it and you actually enjoy it, please let us know in the comments below why or why not, whatever, okay? So, here we go, my first impressions. You choose a PvP server or you don't. If you choose PvE, that's boring, whatever, that's pointless. Because when you get into the game, you can see the engine is just garbage. It's awful. It's like 10 years old. Well, I don't know what engine this is, but this looks really bad. This is like when World of Warcraft first came out, there was a slew of other free-to-play MMOs, and some of them were really freaking good. A lot of them, though, were bad. This game looks like one of those bad free-to-play MMOs. It really does. Oh my goodness. I mean, back in the day, there was like RuneScape. It didn't look that good, but it had so much depth and so much like charm and character. This game, admittedly, does look at least a little bit better than RuneScape does even now, but does it have that charm? No, it doesn't. There's no character to this game whatsoever. But then let's actually scrutinize the graphics, you know, compared to other free-to-play games like Terra, Guild Wars 2, you know, WildStar, games like that. If you actually look at these textures, they're garbage. If you look at the physics, the animations, they're garbage. This is attacking, this is jumping, this is doing anything. This is talking to NPCs. You don't have any sort of like extra. They did not go above and beyond in any way. The game is just like maybe at a physical level, it is playable. Yeah, it is a playable game, but there's nothing more to it. There's no added oomph, you know? There's nothing that grabs me at all. So when you talk to people, I guess it does zoom in on them, but there's no cutscene, there's no actual voice acting aside from the opening. I don't even know if you can call it a cinematic. It was just like 2D art with just like people talking. It wasn't even like an animated comic or anything like that. It was just a painting and then somebody talking, so not really a cinematic. Whatever. There's no voice acting in the game. The sound effects are, some mobile games have better sound effects, man. You know what I'm saying? Some mobile games, which aren't known for their sound design because they're mobile games, have better sound than this game. Better graphics. Actually, if this was a mobile MMO, I could totally let it pass. Absolutely, it would make a lot of sense. But this game had every issue with every mechanic that I can't even go into depth with it because there's just so many issues with every individual little thing. I don't understand. How is it supposed to be a PvP game when every little ability, every little action is so clunky? There's so much latency. There's so much inaccuracy. I just don't understand how you can even attempt to compete with a game like Guild Wars 2. Okay, but here, maybe it's the fact that not everybody can run Guild Wars 2. That's true. Guild Wars 2 is really expensive when it comes to like what hardware you need. It really is. It's incredible. I mean, my machine doesn't even run it at full 60 FPS sometimes. So yeah, but the truth is that this game actually isn't that optimized either. It looks like it might work on any machine, but it really doesn't. There's a lot of dipping, and it doesn't even look that good. So you would think it would run at like 200 million FPS, but it doesn't. There's like nobody playing this game, and yeah, I still have a huge amount of latency. There's still some frame droppage. No, it's more like frame chugging. I don't understand. Why? What's going on? What is this dated engine? They thought they could just make a game with this? No. What? No. It looks pretty bad, and I cannot believe this is a game that is still not even fully developed yet. You cannot access all of the different races, and there's not even that many races. Right now we can only play human and demon, and then the classes in between them, yeah, there's actually like a couple, nine classes, and they seem kind of interesting, but they're gender locked. And why is the female a warrior? I don't understand. Physically, that doesn't make sense, but then again, high fantasy, what have you, but then why can't a male be a warrior? Why is it gender locked classes? What's the point of having gender lock classes if they're not actual characters like Dragon Nest, Vindictus? Those guys, everyone plays totally different, looks totally different. Those are character classes. That's totally different than this. This is what everyone hates. This is gender lock classes for no reason other than probably laziness. But then again, maybe that's coming later on. Maybe they'll have male and female of each class later on. I don't know that, but right now, it's just really surprising that the game doesn't even have that much. It's a really simple thing to enable male models, because if you actually look at the different classes whenever you're creating them, you can see that they are the exact same models between these different classes. So there's no reason why a male could not exist in the female slot. It just doesn't. There's so many things that are so obvious to me as somebody who actually plays MMOs. I'm surprised that these guys are making an MMO and they're also remaking all the mistakes of all the past previous MMOs pretty much combined, okay? So, like, normally there's a single redeeming feature about every single free-to-play MMO, even the B-rated ones, right? Like RuneScape. RuneScape, it has so many flaws, but there's a few reasons, like, really fucking amazing reasons why people love playing it. And that goes the same for, like, AAA games, but I'm just saying, in the same sort of, like, level that this game exists at, there's even some B-rated games that actually have some redeeming qualities, okay? There really are. But this game does not have any of them. It's as if the developers themselves have not been seeing the current trends, have not actually played MMOs themselves, and are just remaking all the mistakes of their predecessors and the ones of the games that are currently out right now. It is a free-to-play game, that's true, so I guess you have no harm in playing it, trying it out for yourself, but it's not a good time, it's not a good experience. And then there's no, like, you cannot tell how good it's going to be in the late game. You can't tell how good the sieges are going to be, supposedly. Like, if there's like 1,000 versus 1,000, there's no way that you can tell that. All that you can tell is when you jump into the game is that the physics are wonky. Sure, it uses an action targeting system. This is going to be sort of like a pseudo tab targeting system, which is kind of similar to what Guild Wars 2 has right now. Elder Scrolls Online kind of pioneered it. Terra as well. Terra actually has a little bit more aiming with it. But anyways, basically, you can aim with your mouse, but it essentially is tab targeting. And then when you actually see the physics of the game, you realize that it's basically aiming for you. You can't really miss, and it's just all wonky and clunky anyways. It's just, it doesn't feel good to fight anything. Everything is super easy too. Like, you can just run around and kill a million billion things. There's really no challenge whatsoever. And, you know, I can go into games like World of Warcraft. And even though World of Warcraft is really easy, I understand that. You can jump into World of Warcraft and you can kill basically fields and fields of enemies, especially if you know what you're doing. It's really easy to grind if you know what you're doing. In a lot of games you can do that. Guild Wars 2 as well, though Guild Wars 2 is infinitely more challenging than some of the other MMOs. But this game is that you don't need to use any mechanics. You don't need to think at all. There is no combos, there is no jumping in or kiting or doing anything. You can just easily kill everything. I don't know why they do that. The game is way too forgiving. It's just so, oh man, it just doesn't feel good whatsoever. If you're grinding in World of Warcraft, it actually feels really fun. You combo your different frost spells, you frost nova, you freeze them all in place, and then you ring down a freaking fireball. Well, it would be like ice shards, whatever. You know, there's different combos. In Guild Wars 2, you're constantly like dodging around and throwing giant AoEs or cleaving through enemies. But in this game, you're not. You're not doing any of that fun stuff. So even if in those other games, if it's easy grinding, at least mechanically, you're freaking all over the place and you're doing some really big, awesome effects. In this game, your very first starter spells are boring, mundane spells that you would expect to see in like EverQuest. And that is an ancient game with ancient technology, and that's what this game looks like. It looks like it's competing with decade-old games, but it's not. It's competing with big boys like Terra, like WildStar, like Guild Wars 2. It's competing with those guys. And there is no reason why you should play this game versus those games. And there's not even a reason to go play this game versus some of the other B-rated, bunny ears B-rated MMOs out there, the lesser known MMOs. But yeah, I just don't see why. So that's Sphere 3. Disclaimer, again, it was just a first impression, not a full review, but you can glean a lot, okay? It's got usual combat. Not even usual combat. It's worse than usual combat. Actually, story for everything. It's got all the usual cliche items, mechanics, and all that good stuff. It's a cliche game, but it's a bad cliche game, right? So, that's that. That's my first impression on Sphere 3. I'm actually really, really glad to be done with this game. Hopefully you are too, hopefully you don't go and play this game. I normally don't say that, normally I'm like, hey guys, I had fun. Hopefully you had fun too. Nah, man, nah, I didn't have fun. It was actually I really felt like working when I was doing this first impression. Thank you though for sticking through to the video. And well, I'm Skylant with Attack Gaming, and I'll see you again next time, hopefully with a better game. Welcome back, Attack. Today we're going to be talking about the top 10 free-to-play MMOs for this year, for 2015, and I think across all the genres for free-to-plays, we've seen so much innovation in MOBAs, in MMOs, in like card games. We've seen so many new things this past year, and hopefully, maybe, probably so, 2015 is going to be just as exciting. This is our